Hey there, I would like to ask, can you explain the following terms? What is a gene? Genome, DNA, RNA, nucleoside, nucleotide, chromosome, nucleic acids. If you can answer all these questions right away, you need not watch this video. But if not, definitely watch it till the end. Hi, this is Yogita and you are watching Yogilogy.
Okay, so let's start with basics of molecular biology. What is a gene? Now here you can see gene is a segment of DNA and this codes for or this has the information for the production of a functional biological product. Now what do you mean by a functional biological product? It can be a protein, it can be a RNA. Now there are some genes which code for multiple proteins. Now how is it possible? It is possible through alternate splicing. Genome. Now the entire DNA that is present inside a single cell is called as the genome of that organism. Okay. So genome that is there inside a cell of an organism, how much is that? Okay. So here you can see the two pictures. One is of Dwayne Johnson. The second one is of Prabhas. The height of these people, okay, is approximately the length of DNA that is packed inside each of our cell. Yes, okay, approximately 2 meters of DNA is fitted inside each of our cell that we have, and we have around trillions of cells. So how is it possible to pack so much of DNA, that is around 2 meters of DNA in a single cell? Okay, over here the chromosomes come into picture. So here you can see this is the DNA that is there. Okay, with the help of these proteins are packed into this structure called as chromosome, and these are visible only during when the cell is going to undergo cell division. Okay, of course under the light microscopy. Okay, so only during that time you will be able to see the chromosome that is formed. So coming to DNA. Now the function of DNA is to store and transmit biological information. But DNA being such a simple molecule, how is it able to do that? So in 1950s, basically it was a mystery that how can such a simple molecule code for such a lot of proteins and RNAs that we know of. So thanks to Watson and Crick, okay, that in 1953 they came up with the 3D atomic model of DNA, which exactly helped us to know that what is the structure of DNA and how it is able to store so much of information within it. So nucleic acids, we have two types of nucleic acid. One is the ribonucleic acid and the second one is the deoxyribonucleic acids. So let's talk what are these nucleic acids made up of. These nucleic acids are made up of nucleotides. Okay, so here you can see the nucleotide. Now the three components that make up a nucleotide, it is the nitrogenous base, the pentose sugar and the phosphate group. Okay, so all these three make up a nucleotide, and many nucleotides come together to form the nucleic acid that we know, whether it is a ribonucleic acid or deoxyribonucleic acid, that is DNA or RNA. So let's go deep into the structure of a nucleotide. So here you can see the three components that make up a nucleotide. Okay, so let's see the numbering first. So here you can see there is 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash, 4 dash, 5 dash. And this is basically the pentose sugar that is present. Okay, so when we are numbering the sugar carbon, it is always followed by a dash, that is a prime. Okay, so we call it as 1 prime, 2 prime, 3 prime, 4 prime, 5 prime. Okay, why are we using this prime over here? Because we want to distinguish it from the numbering that is used for pyrimidines and purines. Now what are these pyrimidines and purines? These are the nitrogenous bases. Okay, so here you can see purines and pyrimidines will attach to the pentose. Okay, the bond that is used over here for the bond formation, that is beta glycosidic bond. Okay, so the purines and pyrimidines get attached to the pentose sugar through this bond. So over here, when we are attaching a purine or pyrimidine to this sugar, okay, this bond that is formed between the N9 of a purine with this 1 prime of the sugar is called as the beta glycoxylic bond. Okay, and similarly, pyrimidines can also attach over here through their N1 nitrogen to the same C1 prime carbon. Okay, so that will be your attachment with the sugar. Now, esterification of this group over here, that is the CH2 group of the sugar, okay, esterification of CH2 group basically will give you a total nucleotide. Now here you can see the structure of a nucleotide. Okay, so which is this sugar that is there? Is this ribose sugar or deoxyribose sugar? This is ribose sugar because here you can see the 2' carbon is having a hydroxyl group attached to it. Okay, if this hydroxyl group is not there, then it is a deoxyribose. Okay, so next we come to the nitrogenous bases. So here we can see different types of nitrogenous bases. One is the purines and the second one are the pyrimidines. Now purines which are there, that is the adenine and guanine, both of them are seen in DNA as well as RNA. Whereas the pyrimidines that are there, that is the cytosine and thymidine, okay, are seen in DNA, whereas cytosine and uracil is seen in RNA. There are some exceptions wherein uracil is also seen in DNA. Now how these purines are formed from pyrimidines, okay. So how they are formed? These pyrimidines are basically, when you add a imidazole group to a pyrimidine, basically you are going to get a purine. Okay, so next we come to hydrogen bonds. Now when we are talking about hydrogen bonds, these are non-covalent, intermolecular, weak bonds, but when they are present in a larger number, okay, here as you can see, when they are present in large number between the two DNAs, when they are complementing each other in an anti-parallel fashion, okay, they provide lot of stability to the double helix structure. So you can see adenine will pair with thymine and guanine is going to pair with cytosine. See how many hydrogen bonds can be formed over here. So when is a hydrogen bond formed? Basically, hydrogen bond is formed when a hydrogen is shared between two electronegative atoms. Okay, so one will be the donor of the hydrogen and one will be the acceptor of that hydrogen. So hydrogen is going to behave like a proton between two electronegative atoms. And this bond is the strongest when all the three, the donor, the hydrogen and the acceptor are in a straight line. Okay, so basically 180 degrees. So that will be the strongest of all. So let's see over here how many hydrogen bonds can be formed. Now in case of adenine, we can see that we have one acceptor and one donor for hydrogen bond. Yes. In case of thymine, we can see there is one acceptor and one donor. In case of cytosine, we can see there is one hydrogen donor and there are two hydrogen acceptors. Whereas in case of guanine, we can see there are two hydrogen donors, hydrogen donor bonds, okay, and one acceptor. So the possibility for guanine is the maximum to form hydrogen bonds. Ribose sugars basically gives the DNA and RNA its identity, okay, and you can see sugars are basically not planar, okay, they have a conformation, okay, you can see the different conformations that it can have, okay, so like nitrogenous bases, they are planar, whereas ribose sugar is not planar, it has various conformations. In case of nucleic acid, it is the beta furanose sugar that is present and it is a 5-membered closed ring. Okay, now let's see which are the reactions that this undergo. Now effect of alkali on nucleic acids. Now as we know, in case of RNA, we have this 2' hydroxyl group that is present. Now because of this hydroxyl group that is present in RNA, it is affected by the presence of alkali. So here you can see if you add alkali or you raise the pH of the solution, what is going to happen is this alkali is going to, this RNA that is there, the phosphodiester bond in this RNA is going to break up. Okay, and what we are going to get is 2-3- cyclic monophosphate derivative. Okay, so here you can see the 2-3- cyclic monophosphate derivative, okay, which will further give you a mixture of 2- and 3- monophosphate derivatives. Now, this same reaction with DNA, okay, it will not have effect on DNA with similar conditions. Why? Because DNA doesn't have this 2- hydroxyl group. Okay, so nucleotides and nucleic acids basically undergo some non-enzymatic transformations. One of these is this deamination process. So here you can see by deamination, this exocyclic amino group has been removed. Okay, so the cytosine residue that is there, because removal of this exocyclic amino group, it has been transformed to uracil. Similarly, you can see 5-methyl cytosine has been transformed to thymine. Then adenine, you can see over here, removal of this amino group will give you hypoxanthine, and in case of guanine, if it is removed, then we'll get xanthine. Okay, so these are the various kinds of mutations that can occur inside a DNA molecule and which can cost cell a lot. So next we come to depurination. Now in depurination, what is going to happen is, here the link that is there between the base and the sugar is going to break up. Okay, and what you're going to get is a guanine and a apurinic residue. So this process is called as depurination, and it produces a apurinic or a pyrimidinic residue. So let's try to solve some questions that have appeared in previous question papers. So the first question I've picked up is, deamination of bases is a common chemical event that produces spontaneous mutation. Which one of the following bases will be formed by deamination of 5-methyl cytosine? So as we have already seen over here, you can see 5-methyl cytosine will give you, deamination of this is going to give you thymine. Okay, so the correct answer will be thymine. So next question here is, DNA is not hydrolyzed by alkali, whereas RNA is readily hydrolyzed. This is due to the double helical structure of DNA, the presence of uridine in RNA, due to features observed in RNA such as stem loop structure, the presence of 2-OH group in RNA. So as we all know, RNA, in case of RNA, it is going to be susceptible to the alkali attack because of the presence of 2-OH group that is there, or 2' hydroxyl group that is present in RNA. So next question, in proteins, hydrogen bonds form as follows. Okay, we have donor, we have hydrogen, and we have acceptor. Now what I had explained was with relation to nucleic acid, but remember that hydrogen bond is a universal concept. It can be applied to proteins, it can be applied to nucleic acids, it can be applied to water. The concept will remain the same. Okay, so the donor, hydrogen, acceptor. Okay, so in proteins, hydrogen bonds form as follows: donor, hydrogen, and acceptor. Hydrogen bond is more favorable if the angle between D, H and A is 180 degrees, because all the three, that is the donor, the hydrogen and the acceptor, should fall in straight line, and to get an angle of straight line it should be 180 degrees. So the next question over here, which one of the following bases has the largest hydrogen bonding possibility? Okay, that also we have seen, that is guanine has the highest hydrogen bond forming possibility.
Do like and subscribe to my channel if you are new to my channel. If you want to contact me, my details are in the description box below. And all the best.
Stay happy, stay safe, and bye. Thanks for watching.